Okay, now we've got recording. That's something. Do you want me to continue? Are you quite happy with that?
Yes, sure. You can.
Okay. So what we're going to do. We're going to go through a basket full of training methods. The reason, well, we'll go through the advantages and disadvantages of each of the training methods. Those advantages and disadvantages will be really relating to the performance of the employee whilst they're learning and after they've learned, really, and whether the employer can get return on investment or not, how soon they can do that. Vestible training. Here is very much a top-down method of training again. Vestible training, pretty much technical exercise here, and you don't need. It's probably more suitable for computer trainees. Here you've got training instructors. It's really, these methods relate to what is being trained. Is it to do with computers? Is it to do with machinery? Is it to do with the initial one, the job training methods? Is just to do with the working with people as machinery on the job is most suitable for that. Those are pretty much technical training ways. Top down, the so-called top down, they just modularize, they break it down into smaller tasks, and you can either repeat what you've been shown to do. No. So that's how it's being taught. So this one here, vestible training. This one is just another way of breaking the training down into modules, into steps, systematic. Instead of small steps, they're breaking it down into chunks. Really, just chunking the learning, so that the employee has to learn a bit more, not just one task, maybe a group of tasks, and then chunking it in that way. They have to then demonstrate that they've learned it. Okay, let's move more quickly. Job rotation is very, very different. This method here is different to the others because it's often used by like trainers in the workplace who believe that job satisfaction is really what they're trying to give the employee. Job rotation achieves that because people are satisfied with training that way. What they will do is they'll do their normal job, and then they'll be trained to do another aspect of that job, and because of that, they get to see the whole picture of the work of what others do, and because they can do a little bit of what the others do, then they get a rounded picture of the whole process, the whole activity of the business. And as such, they rotate the jobs. They do one job, they do another job. So you do someone's job, and that other person does your job, and you get a fuller picture, and you get job satisfaction. And this is really crucial to retain that idea that job satisfaction improves quality of the worker in the workplace. And it improves performance, and it is a good medium to long-term investment. This kind of method. So wider exposure develops into multiple skills. If these are the words you need to use when you're describing this one. It's different to the others. This one is more rote learning. Rote learning is where someone says something and you have to repeat it, or someone does something and you have to repeat it. Whereas this one here is where you probably similar to learning on the job, isn't it? Job rotation or in-house training, but you then widen it. You've got wider exposure to other people's jobs. It's not just one job you're doing multiple skills. So job rotation is mainly aimed at job satisfaction. It's very, very important. Different philosophy, actually, this one, to the other methods. Often the other methods are about controlling the workflows. Here, they're looking at getting quality work, better quality work, and better performance that way. So, job rotation, it trains workers in a variety of duties. Okay, well, it's just multiple skills here. I think it's, excuse me. Here, the words that I pick out for here from the text here, that it's an overall perspective, multiple skills, high motivation. This is critical. The learners are become much better motivated, and they, as a consequence, they get greater job satisfaction because they know what everybody else is doing. I don't mean that in a negative way, and not in a gossipy way. They know what everyone else is doing because they know everybody else's job, and they can they work together collectively better, as a team. Here's another word I'm picking out here from the text: participation. This is pretty much learning, I call from the bottom up, not the top down. That they're participating in the learning process. Okay, it's often incremental. There's less control, and it's a different outlook to training completely. This here, which is the job rotation one. We'll go into that a bit more later on. Okay. Have you got access to this PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I want to do here is, rather than just read it out, I want to give you some background to these different methods. These methods appear to be just a shopping basket full of methods, but there are assumptions and that underpin the different methods and why one is used and not the other. And often it's dependent on the other things. It's dependent on not just randomly choosing one method over. It's dependent on the style of the management, and it depends on the business as well. Depends on how skilled already before they come into the workplace the employees are, and it depends on time as well, whether the business wants a medium-term return on investment or an immediate return on investment. And also whether the business culture is one where it recognizes quality is very important over quantity. Can be an advertising agency, can't it? That the better quality advert, the more successful it is, rather than just churning out a mundane advert one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's obviously there's a creativeness in that industry, so they will then use things like job rotation and other things to aim at producing quality. The only way they can do this, have a highly motivated employee, the only way they can do this is give them some job satisfaction. And say job rotation is one way of doing it. Okay, apprenticeship training, it's morphed or changed, certainly in the UK anyway. It used to be a cheap way of training, actually, and the wages they would get would be quite low a long time ago, but nowadays it's changed with government money thrown at or given to employers to take people on and to take it seriously, really, and to train them on the job training kind of thing. But it is something where after the apprenticeship finishes, the person then gets accredited from a professional organisation, or they will be given professional status. So the apprenticeship does lead to a bit more than just being able to do the job in a proficient way. It leads to a professional status, and they would then presumably be able to leave that workplace and get a job at another one because of that. There are modern apprenticeships that employees can use that training certificate or qualification and then move on. Whereas if it was on the job training, that may not be as easy to do. Okay, typically you get a workbook and it gets signed off, doesn't it? It's similar. Some of these are similar. Some of them are more or less structured. Some of them are there to be just a quick fix on technical issues, training on technical issues. Others are more long-term, recognises the value of the employee and the importance it is to keep them happy in the workplace, and as a consequence, to get better performance, obviously, and better quality work done. So all training methods, you need to be careful about which one you choose, really, which one's suitable. So training, we talked about internship training. It smacks of universities here, doesn't it? Internship training, like professors at universities or would-be students. You take on a position or a role, and it's only temporary, isn't it? And if you don't perform, then you lose that opportunity to have maybe a full-time job contract or something. It mainly relates to professionals. Obviously, accountancy here, it says here, paramedics, nursing, especially medicine. So you've qualified here typically, and you are mentored within the workplace. And you will also have to do some theoretical training as well as workplace training. So it relates to professional practice and the things like ethics, for example. You have to demonstrate that you have the right ethics, the ethical code. You have to demonstrate that sort of thing. So it's very much broader, greater depth here, and the end result will be to pursue best practice in your profession. Okay, internship training, different level really. Often this is used for qualified people who are taking on the job, or perhaps just left university or something. Here's coaching and counselling. This values people and values their performance by giving them the opportunity for like job enrichment or job, not just job rotation, but here would be just some sort of satisfaction they would get from the job, and it's not so much just giving them a job title. It's actually training them in a holistic way within an organisation to give them the confidence really to perform their job. It's holistic. It's very much a medium-term investment. It's not a short-term investment where they have to push the right button. It's really ensuring that they have the confidence. For example, if someone wanted to be a board member and they'd come from the right background and they knew that they had to perform duties there, then they'd probably use this one here, the coaching and counselling one, especially if they're in the right background. Okay. This one is typically, as it says, really off-job training. Could be day release. So they always call day release. Could be college learning. Day release could be, I think, accountancy, don't they? Sometimes the organisations they pay for you to go on a training weekend just before exams. That would be off-the-job training. It's pretty obvious what this one is. Difficult to get from an employer these days. Off-the-job training. You know that you're in a good job if they provide off-the-job training, if they actually pay for your books, but not your books, also to attend not just conferences, but to attend specialist weekend courses and revision courses as well, this sort of thing. It's often expensive as well. Lecture methods, well, here it is here really, similar to what I'm doing here, but it's not face-to-face, is it? It ought to be a two-way thing. That's the ideal thing. Sometimes the technology won't allow that. For example, we can't see each other's faces. Well, I could change that, with your consent, that is. Lecture method, often it's something which is formal, though. In a lecture on the front, questioning is at the end. Instead of a good interaction, it's like everyone's quiet. The person gives a lecture and there's questions at the end. That's like the lecture method, really, very, very formal, and very, very structured as well. For example, there would be a plenary at the end, there would be an introduction at the beginning, there would be the content, and the questions would only come at the end, So that's that one. Okay. Obviously, it's good if you've got large numbers, that method, because you can have hundreds of people, can't you, all keeping quiet and waiting to the end to ask their questions. Cost effective, a bit different to the others, like job rotation. You can only do that on a one-to-one, you know, whereas this one, you could have loads of people in the lecture hall, and maybe they pay £100 each, I don't know, some money, and it's very, very cost effective in that way. Whereas if it was job rotation, you can only do that on a one-to-one basis, and once you've dealt with one person, you have to then deal with the next person, and that could be quite a lengthy procedure. Okay, so there's different ways of doing things, and we're looking at the advantages and disadvantages. So a large number here is a very efficient way of doing things. Limitations of the lecture method is there's not really a great deal of opportunity to participate, except at the end. And people learn differently, which we haven't got to yet. We need to know how people learn, because they all learn differently. Not everyone learns the same way. And we need to go into that, probably in LO2. We will go into the theory, basically. So here for LO1, we're looking at this. Then LO2, I'm sure that we're going to get into the theory, you know, not just the different ways of learning, but the different philosophies of training, different philosophies of teaching as well. It's not just the one. And then once you've got the theory, then you can basically you match the method up with it. Okay. Another method here, conference method. Have you ever been to a conference? Donna, have you ever been to a conference? It's a good way of meeting people and networking, you know, because you get feedback informally, don't you, rather than formally. It's a good way of conference. They will have some method of decision making there, and there'll be a vote. You know, in the conference they often have votes. Maybe they'll have plenaries. Maybe they'll have caucuses. Maybe they'll have cliques, even, where they talk beforehand and make decisions. And then they come as a group into the main conference, and they will vote as a group as part of the decision-making process. So it's very, very different. The conference method, it's very much definitely participatory. There's no doubt about that. And it's usually collective way of method, if you like, of learning. Could be learning about issues, could be understanding problems and problem solving, and so on and so forth. It's quite a good way of learning in a very short period of time. Issues, or especially issues which are not just organisation, could be environmental, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, programmed instruction is another one. I mean, typically you think of computers, don't you? It's computer programming. It has to be programmed instructions. That's very typical of that. If you know any programming, if you've done any maths, any Python, this kind of thing, the only way to do it is by programmed instructions. You can't do it holistically, really. There's not much intuition there. Not when you're getting started, anyway. It's not intuitive, really. And maybe language learning as well, programmed instructions. Very, very, not talking so much of machines here. This is programming machines, mainly logic, isn't it? Formal, very, very formal logic. One step follows another. If you've completed one step, then the next one usually follows on, almost of itself. Okay. Another one of the basket full of methods here, vocational guidance. Getting a bit holistic here. It's training in a way to choose a career, even rather than just to be able to perform a task. It's pretty much guidance. Well, that's what it says, vocational guidance. It's not overpowering. It's not controlling. It's actually giving the person some options, some choices like career goals and progressive points. It's still a method, vocational guidance. It's a standoffish, isn't it? Method. It's not no one looking over your shoulder or anything like that. It's very much skill, I think, to impart this in a way which recognises that the people have. The people should be making choices themselves and not be directly influenced. It's a guidance thing. It's not so much directly influenced by the person who's giving it. Might be tests involved there, looking at capabilities in human resources. When we get down to doing human resources, we'll be looking at identifying job roles and personal capabilities, and then matching them up together. This is a bit to do with that. There might be, but we can deal with that later on. A study method. Now, if you're an academic, you will have done this, I'm sure. And certainly in business, there's loads of case studies. But what you do is you look at the case studies and you draw out, typically you draw out themes, if you're doing qualitative research work, or you would quantify it. If you can use both different methodologies in this case study method, and you would then extrapolate typically from the case study. You can get away with doing that. Sometimes it is used by both camps, and sometimes quite successfully people do research using the case study method. For the learner or the employee, it's good to, if you're not in the real world, it's good to actually learn what other people have done past. It's a good way of learning from other people's mistakes, isn't it? Without you paying the cost for them. The case studies is quite a useful way of learning, actually. If you can get to some case study in the workplace, be unusual. Typically, you do it in universities, don't you? I'm sure you've done it before, and I think they'll continue using case studies. It's a good way of learning, especially in business. Let's move on quickly. So yeah, I mean, it's like it's as near to the real world as you can get case studies, without actually being there. But you've got the advantage of being at a distance, so that you're able to examine mistakes a bit better, a bit more distanced, and to analyse it and learn from it better by using it when you do case studies. Sometimes you're not on your own. Sometimes you're in seminars where you've got discussions going on and different opinions, so you can learn that way, and you can compare them. It can be comparative, can't it? It's a good method to use with case studies. So case studies often used at universities. There are organisations as well. Some would argue they're businesses as well, and that's just what they use, and it's quite successful, really. And it's a case study. It depends on the subject. You can simulate something that somebody else did in the past. Call it their case, the other person's case study, just to see how, if you can replicate it. It can be research work, you can use that, other people's research work, and replicate it, and simulate the same conditions. Very difficult to do, of course. And if you do simulate it, then it would depend if it's a social science subject, or and obviously you could do role playing. You could put the different hats on, couldn't you? You could have a whale of a time with that one. And with this one here, this would be talking about case study methods. There's all sorts of ways to undergo that. In management, very popular here, trainee managers, that is, to confront real management situations, by doing case studies, and they do that by role study. And they here we go. They placed it on the job. Actually, this is in the job itself. We've got to call it basket exercise. This one is a bit unusual. Okay, in basket, in which the day's decisions problem are lined up, and out of basket, in which the trainee's decisions are passed on. Passed on, I suppose, meaning examined by others, really. So it's all heavily influenced by decision making on the job, on the spot. Thinking on the spot typically, and then passed on. Out of basket is where people talk about it and examine those high-pressure decisions made on the spot. Let's move on quickly. Business games. Governments do this, don't they? Especially in the nuclear industry, but hopefully they don't press the button. Business games, they do it in business, where they, I think there's some television shows that do this. They have teams and they're competing with each other, and they're given a task to do, and they compare who does well and who doesn't do well, and they're rewarded in some way or other, isn't it? I call that business games because it's only of a temporal nature, and there's a competitive element to it, and it's very much participatory, often teamworks, competing teams. Could be a lot of fun as well, except the rewards might differ as to whether you've done it well or not, isn't it? Typically, you get television games that use this business games thing as a form of entertainment for viewers, isn't it? This one is quite useful. It's sensitivity training. It's sometimes to do with psychology. Small groups here, and they will be using group work. Sometimes in social psychology, and they'll be examining and reflecting, typically reflecting, by the way, is now being used on most professions, even I think accountancy, certainly in nursing, where they have to reflect on what they've done, what they could have done better, in particular, what they could have done better. And that will involve examining feelings, emotions generated by working with other people, isn't it? And that's what they do here. With sensitivity training, it's done as a group, and it has to be written up later. And it's being more holistic, making them aware of their own behaviour and how they are viewed by others. If it's don't forget this. Supervisors might do sensitivity training, and leaders might do this, to make them aware of how they are communicating, not just verbally. It can be through bodily communication, and that's often indicative of how they're feeling. So that's why they use sensitivity training. Okay, indirect communication, really. And yes, it's often used for development, isn't it? Personal professional development. It's probably a method that's used for personal professional development in colleges, clarifying personal values, clarifying styles of leadership, styles of management, what best suits you, what's the best method, or what isn't. So personal professional development training, okay, pretty much ongoing. But I don't think it's undertaken by many organisations, it should be. It's expensive, time out of work, kind of thing you'd have to go in the evening. Maybe you'd even pay for it yourself. But it's a good thing because it involves communication that's indirect, not just direct, where you learn about that. Okay. I don't believe it. I think we've got through this super fast. What I do need to make you aware of is the philosophy behind all these methods. Okay, and this is more or less hints at LO2, and there are some key players there which you need to know about. I'm going to show you some. One is from the Human Relations School. This is all about managing people in the workplace, human relations theory, and you need to know about some of the key players there. This is the theory. You've done the methods. You look at the theory now. Elton Mayo is a key player. He's very much human relations theory. What happened was that there are two theories. Okay, obviously one's human relations theory. The other one is more traditional. It goes back to the time of Ford. The motor car Ford company, and the production process of manufacturing production process in America, where people had to work. It goes back in time. Obviously, human relations theory is more modern, The traditional theories aren't, they're old-fashioned. So we can go into human relations theory, and particularly Mayo. The old theory that's different to human relations theory is called scientific management. Okay, so there's two theories. One is human relations, the other one is scientific management that you need to do some reading up on. It's very important you do some reading up on those. The key players are Mayo is one of them. Elton Mayo, obviously, well, he's American. Okay, doesn't matter, does it? And the other key players are they seem to be quite good on Mayo. The other key players are Hertzberg, Hertz, Berg, human relations, that one here. Taylor, Taylorism is part of the scientific management school. Okay, scientific management was really you can see there's a lot written on about it. Here's scientific management. Was in response to the weaknesses of scientific management. Scientific management was about people working in factories where their jobs were atomized, and they felt so-called alienated, and they felt they were often rewarded by piecework. If you can imagine someone working in a factory in the 1900s, which is what happened, what they used to do, they'd take a bolt and they'd from one basket, and they'd take a screw from another basket. They would screw the bolt onto the screw, and then they would put it in a third basket, and then they'd take the other. Obviously, doing that 12 hours a day would be really alienating and dehumanizing. And but they thought that was efficient. They thought that was scientific. If they'd broken down the jobs into the smallest detail, they could get more work out of the people. That's what they thought. But obviously, it was not very job satisfying. Human Relations School just said, no, you can get more. People will work faster if that's what you want, but people can work and perform even better and do the job very, very well if you recognise that they've got human needs, and if you satisfy them in the workplace, you're going to get a lot more out of them than the scientific management people were getting out of people in the workplace. That's the differences between the two. Really. Obviously, there's more to it. We've got Hertzberg, we've got Mayo. Taylor is the scientific management. Excuse me.
Okay.
Can you do some research on those? So it's scientific management. These basketful methods, yeah, they overlap on these two theories, and I want you to try and work out which methods you can match to which theory, basically. For example, job rotation would be human relations theory, okay? Mm-hmm. And obviously human relations theory. And some of the operationalized methods, programming, for example, that would probably be a bit more scientific. If we can go back to our screen, let's go back to our screen. It is a very, very interesting area. It's not just a collection of methods. You're not going to the market buying whatever methods is around on the shelves. You have to know the theory as well. And just get back to this. Where have we got here? I think it's here. That's no. So what I'd like you to do is actually do some reading up on human relations theory. Let's just go back and see if we can get some of the other players. We don't mention Ford with scientific management, Mayo and Hertzberg, and some of the other players. Let's go to images. There's one where there's a hierarchy of needs. That's one of the. Here it is here. Can you see this one here? This is what they call a hierarchy of needs. And this is what they meant by employers. Obviously, not in every respect. Love and belonging, you're not going to get that in a workplace. Maybe not. Well, actually, to be honest, you do. But let's not really get too much into that. If employers can satisfy all these things, particularly self-actualization, physiological, that could mean things like health and safety. well, there's safety anyway. The physiological can be like canteens or creches for women with young children. If you can satisfy these, what they call human needs, then you find that people perform better. This is the human relations movement, and this is what they call a hierarchy of needs. There are loads of players and people who've written about this. Another one, I can give you another one, but I'm a bit worried that I don't want to give you too much here, because this really hints at learning objective 2, human relations theory. Another one there was a guy called McGregor, Scottish, would you believe?
Okay.
Yeah, McGregor, yeah. He had, I'll finish off with this one, but I won't say any more. You can do, I want you to research hierarchy of needs with a human relations theory. This McGregor guy said there was 2 types of managers theory that followed a theory X and a theory Y. Theory Y was human relations managers that recognise human relations theory and the methods that go with them were the best way to get the most out of employees by meeting their social needs and everything like this. But theory Y were very much those managers who wanted the same thing, actually. They wanted the employees to perform best, but they said, well, no, it's no good just meeting their social needs. They're lazy, aren't they? This is theory X, mind you. And he says, because they're lazy, these are the theory X managers, then we have to control them more and control them better and punish them even because they're lazy and because they're not able to participate. And it's a complete set of assumptions that closely marries up with the human relations theory. Why is human relations theory X actually is the assumptions that was made in scientific management school. Okay, McGregor first wrote about this. Try and do some work on McGregor's quite important. Theory of needs is important. Try and get a feel for it, the 2 different schools, because I don't know what you studied biology, wasn't it, at university?
Yes, sir.
Don't know the kind of depth involved there, but basically these 2 theories, they mirror social science and natural science. Okay, so be aware. Don't go too deep into it, but just keep it within the confines of business science, business management, or the business context, if you like. But I think it's quite rewarding to go into it. Try your best to do some background reading. I think I've got some references for you. Let's just see if I can get them. Or have I lost everything here? Here it is. These are references. Now, I'm not sure about these. I'm not sure what's best for you. The good thing is, if you notice these references, they're not westernized, which is good. They are academics who've been writing, throughout the globe, really, not just in the West. So that's just for the names. Teamwork is important. Teamwork is something which threads through both schools of thought and all the methods. And I mean, I suppose I could just add here at the end that certainly the human relations school would be using teamwork because, again, it satisfies what? It satisfies social needs. People are social animals. And if they work in teams, then they perform better in teams. You know, the car plants, the Japanese Toyota, a few years back, they discovered that if they allowed employees to work in cells, on the factory floor, to work in cells, to take on board, like they did job rotation there, and if they worked in teams, especially, or in cells, teams, same thing, they took ownership of the work that they were doing. They took pride in it. It became, because they took ownership in what they were doing, they produced far better quality cars. Toyota, as we know now, are high quality cars, and they don't depreciate as much as other cars. And even today, I know it's robotics now, isn't it? But at the time, they made that change in the organisation of the workplace structure in manufacturing units, and by using teamwork and business cells and looking at the human relations school, see if they could apply it to car manufacturing, which is in fact what scientific management did with the Ford plant at the turn of the century. But Toyota did completely different methods, and it's benefited them in the long term, even now it's benefiting them because of the higher quality work. So you can see there's a business case, there's a business argument. It's not just academic. There's a very strong business argument, and often it comes down to whether businesses want a short-term return on investment in their people, or medium-term and long-term. Obviously, Toyota, they've got a long-term return on their investment, and it worked for them. But what I say to you, Doris, try and do some reading on the Human Relations School and Scientific Management School. You're going to get LO2, okay? So we're jumping ahead a bit here, but I think that's not a problem there. We've gone through the methods, and you can just reel them off, the flavour of which group or which theory you can put them under. Are you okay with things so far? Have I been talking too fast?
Yes.
Did you follow things okay? What do you think?
Yes.
You sure? I'm not sure how to. Actually, maybe suitable to get to see what we've got here. Got a control panel. I'm going to go to device manager because I've closed off my video. Here it is. Can you see this thing here? I'll enable that device, and I'm not sure whether I can get video. I just did that on the computer. Obviously, this device is working properly now. I deliberately switched it off. I'm not sure it'll work. It's just to say goodbye, really. I'm not sure if I can get a video of you, but let's see if I can do. No, there. If not, then we'll call it a day. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
No, I don't think I can do what I want to do. I'll have to find out how to do it properly. It's paused. Sharing is paused. Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks very much. See you, Donna. Cheers and bye.
Cheers.